Members, let me call to order the meeting of the panel on security of the Legislative Council. It is the appointed time and we have a quorum. Item 1 on the agenda, confirmation of minutes of previous meeting. May I ask members whether you have any comments on this set of minutes? The minutes were issued on the 30th of October and the clerk has not received any proposals for amendments. If members have no comments here and now, I would propose that we adopt the minutes as the correct record. Thank you. Item 2, information papers issued since the last meeting. There are 2 information papers which have been circulated, one from the Hong Kong Human Rights Monitor, the other one from the Director of Public Prosecutions, a reply from him. Those are the 2 papers. Any questions? Yes? Ms. Emily Lau. Chairman, with regard to the second one on the ICAC, I have just read something from the email. I think it exposes a lot of problems. This is not the time to discuss it, but I believe it should be placed on the agenda for a further discussion. People are leaving, and it's very difficult for them to find somebody to succeed. The people leaving, it's obvious that they do not have a succession plan, and there are gaps in the establishment. So, you mean after reading the paper, you'd like to have it discussed? Yes, please, Chairman. Can we arrange for it to be discussed at the next meeting? Okay, we'll come to that when we talk about items for discussion at the next meeting. Mr. James Toh, Chairman, I'd like to say that the police recently acquired different types of ammunition to tackle riots. A lot of them. In recent times, they have this sound vibration device, which is a long-range acoustic device, which can emit sound waves, which can harm people, and people can feel nauseous and suffer a lot from it. Some reporter associations have said that they are greatly concerned because they would be near to the crowds in a riot or in a gathering. Now, what's the guideline for making use of that device? What are the effects of that device? I like to take that up. In other words, I like to discuss recently acquired anti-riot or anti-protest, anti-march device or ammunition and how these are supposed to be used and monitored. Okay, Deputy Chairman. We are talking about item 2, information papers issued since the last meeting. When we come to the 3rd item, date of next meeting and items for discussion, then we can discuss what items to be discussed at the next meeting. So if there is nothing else under item 2, then we can come to item 3 and address the issue you raised. Ms. Emily Lau, the letter from the Hong Kong Human Rights Monitor has to do with the flag-raising ceremony on the 1st of October that members of scholarism were removed from the scene. This is a letter to the Chief Secretary for Administration asking her to see whether civil servants remain politically neutral. I think we should discuss this as well. I believe this should be placed on the list of items for discussion. Okay, when we come to that, we can discuss these. Chairman, another one, a quick one, Chairman. There was once a reporter of Apple Daily was singled out because he said something in the face of President Hu Jintao. I'd like to know whether any report has been issued to LegCo so we can take it up. Right. Let us go into item 3 now. In fact, we are dealing with all these issues, but I'd just like to complete item 2 and come to item 3. Okay, we go into item 3. The clerk, have you listed all these items into the list? No. You're talking about the Apple Daily reporter. President Hu Jintao was walking by and the reporter shouted something at him and the reporter was removed from the scene. Okay. we have the list of items for discussion. And in fact, these can be listed into that schedule. May I refer you to that paper? I'm sure you have it. The administration has proposed something. Last time, together with the deputy chairman, we took this up with the administration because there is a backlog of issues and some have been replied to, not others. And now there is a paper from the administration with proposals. I believe you have seen them. If there is nothing special, I think we can follow that list of outstanding items, and then we can take them up in due course. But for the next meeting, the administration has made certain proposals. Including taxi drivers stealing or speeding away with the property of passengers, and also the CSD issues. Just now, a few members have raised other issues, including the long-range acoustic device. I think we can put them all under one topic, and that is new facilities and equipment or devices acquired by law enforcement agencies. We can have that, and also succession upon retirement. We have a paper, and Ms. Emily Lau would have that listed. And number 3, the Apple Daily Reporter. Have we asked for a report at any time from the administration? No. Then we can write a letter to the administration asking it for a report, and then we can arrange for a time to discuss the matter. If necessary, we can have that discussed at our meetings. Anything else that you would like to raise under item 3? The Human Rights Monitor letter. We have taken it up with the Home Affairs panel. We are asking for information. That is under the jurisdiction of the HAB. It's about a guideline for protocols, and the police were there just to give assistance. Let us see how the HAP is following up the matter. We have taken that up with the HAB, and we know that the HAP should follow up. Well, let the clerk know. Please ask the HAP to invite us to that meeting when they discuss it. If you say the police have no role on that day, well, the police have been invited by the HAB to help keep order. The police were not there to enforce any policy because that was an activity governed by the rules of protocol. Okay, the clerk, please write it down that members would like to be invited to that meeting of the HAP. As for the next meeting, the Security Bureau proposes 2 matters. 1, results of study of matters raised in the Annual Report 2011 to the Chief Executive by the Commissioner on Interception of Communications and Surveillance. Experience tells us that we might need to devote an entire session for it. And then we have another item, which is a funding proposal. This is about the new immigration control system to support control point operation of the Immigration Department. These are the 2 items for the next meeting, but the first one would be the meat of our discussion. We'll be inviting the Commissioner himself to come. And to be part of the discussion. No questions? If not, items for discussion for this meeting. Measures to combat parallel trading activities. The clerk, please ask the administration to come in. The relevant papers are LC paper number CB2138/12-13 When the administration comes in, we'll first ask the administration to introduce the paper. Then we can have a discussion. Attending for this item, we have from the administration a total of 8 officials, including Mr. John Lee, Undersecretary for Security, Ms. Amy Wong, PAS for Security, Mr. Jose Yam, or actually Mr. William Fong, Assistant Director of Immigration, and then Mr. Ken Wong, Head of Rail and Ferry Command, Customs and Excise Department. From the police, Mr. Alfred Chow, Regional Commander, New Territories North. From the FSD, Mr. Robert Lau, Deputy Chief Fire Officer. And from the Transport Department, Mr. Jose Yam, and also from the MTRCL, Ms. Bonnie Yao, Senior Manager Corporate Relations. Undersecretary, should I give you time to walk us through the paper? Yes, please. Thank you, Chairman. Chairman, members. The Security Bureau submitted a paper to the Panel on Security to report on measures to combat parallel trading activities by law enforcement agencies. I'd like to give you the gist of the paper. According to the laws of Hong Kong, parallel trading itself is not a crime. However, the SARG is extremely concerned because parallel trading has caused disruptions to the daily lives of residents, particularly in the North District. The CS4A convened an interdepartmental meeting on the 18th of September and announced a range of measures to combat parallel trading. The aim is to target livelihood issues caused by parallel trading, nuisance caused to passengers on a daily basis, and also order at the control points. These measures target a few aspects. 1, to have more intelligence exchange. The C&ED at different land boundary points has increased intelligence exchange to monitor parallel trading, and information has been transferred to different enforcement agencies in order to tackle parallel trading at source, and also to target the distribution and reassembling of goods and also the operators. We have also increased intelligence exchange with mainland enforcement agencies, and we have cracked down or neutralized on a few such cases. Secondly, we'd like to target mainland residents who breach the conditions of stay.
In the past few months, the Immigration Department and the police have carried a number of times Operation Wind Sand in Shangshui and other areas to crack down on mainland residents who were suspected of contravening conditions of stay in Hong Kong by involving in parallel trading activities. As of the 2nd of this year, we've arrested 380 mainlanders, 42 of which have been prosecuted, 31 convicted, and sentenced to 2 months of imprisonment. 331 have been expatriated, and the relevant authorities have been notified. For those already convicted, we'll ask the main authorities to cancel their exit endorsements. Mainland visitors who are repatriated may be refused entry by the Immigration Department if the latter are doubtful as to the purpose of visit. And we've also arrested people who have abated or aided people to breach their conditions of state and to engage in unlawful employment. The FEHD and the Transport Department have stepped up enforcement action against obstruction of streets and roads. The MTRCL has stepped up control over luggage being carried into trains so as to improve pedestrian flow and smooth traffic. The FSD and also the Highways Department have also enhanced the checking of these places if there is any obstruction of means of escape or if there is any obstruction of streets or users have breached the conditions of use and will take enforcement action. The Guangdong provincial authorities have set up a special command center to target such activities. They have the Customs and Excise and also the immigration authorities involved. They are using administrative measures to crack down on such activities. Now they have stepped up the penalty, and for the first and second time of contravention or involvement in parallel activities trading, they will be banned from entry, and then for the third offense, they will be imprisoned, and the fine will be increased by fivefold. And they also take action against peripheral activities. For instance, they target places where parallel imported goods, illegally imported parallel goods are being sold, and then they make use of the media to report on the effectiveness or the outcome of the enforcement action. The two authorities of the two sides will continue to join efforts to crack down on such activities. Where necessary, we will carry out joint operations. So we have seen some improvement. We have seen improvement in law and order in some areas. Of course, we still have this problem with us. So our action has to be sustained. We will keep a close eye on the modus operandi of such activities so that we can control a source and carry out intelligence-based enforcement actions. And we'll also change our strategy as appropriate in the light of changing circumstances. Myself and my colleagues will be more than happy to receive comments from members. Our objective is to minimize the nuisance associated with such activities. Thank you. I have quite a number of names here waiting to ask questions. I'll read out the names. Wong Yuk-man, Gary Chen, Chen Cam Lam, Emily Lau, Wang Kwok-him, James To, and more. Lam Tai Fai, and any more? Yes. Albert Ho. Yik Chi Ming. But already we've got 10 members. Each will be given 5 minutes. I have to stop at 5 minutes because please ensure that you reserve time for officials to answer your questions, because we have quite a meaty agenda. So please be mindful of the time. Mr. Wong Yuk-man. Thank you, Chairman. And I think the Undersecretary sounded more like a policeman than the Undersecretary for Security. Now we have to bear in mind that because of the differences in exchange rate and taxation and many issues, parallel trade activities are bound to exist, and it hasn't just arisen recently, because relevant officials, both in Hong Kong and on the mainland, did not have any vision. They have not assessed in details the impact of policies. Well, I'm talking about the individual visitor scheme. And the SAR officials are very lopsided. They are often led at the nose by the media. For instance, recently there are concerns that these activities at Shangshui Station have caused inconvenience and nuisance to travelers and residents. And as a result, the extremely unpopular CE made a visit to inspect the situation, and the administration was too slow in reaction. And the proposals here failed to tackle the problem, to eradicate the problem. Many of the activities or measures announced by the CS4A are not related to parallel trading activities at all. So, the associated problems would only go from bad to worse. They're not going to improve because of the tackling measures. First, the import and export ordinance doesn't forbid people to carry items in and out of Hong Kong unless the items are prohibited things. And if the person concerned is a Hong Kong resident, then he is carrying out lawful commercial activities and he will be protected by law. Now, he is not allowed to carry, so long as there is the market in the mainland, such activities are not going to stop. And local residents will take up the trade. And so long as these people have not breached the conditions of stay, well, the purpose of individual visitors to Hong Kong is for shopping. So it is hard to tell whether the goods is for his own use or for trading. So you have adopted a very high profile in cracking down such activities. I think it is easy for these people to respond and to circumvent your measures. Now, I'd like to comment on the Secretary's measures. They are neither fish nor fowl, and if officials can answer some of my questions, please do so. Paragraph 2 says that such activities should be cracked down at source, but it is perfectly lawful for local residents to carry out such activities. So on what basis can you crack down on such activities? And what's wrong with selling baby formula to people from the mainland? Why should local chemists be penalized? Of course, you may say that it's easy for them to tell whether it is a genuine customer or a trader, but theoretically speaking, they are just the same. It's difficult to tell. And then 372 traders have been arrested in the Operation Windsend. 31 which have not and 331 persons have not been prosecuted, have been repatriated to the mainland. I'm very concerned that so many people have been repatriated without prosecution. Can you please explain the prosecution policy? And when did the administration formulate this prosecution policy? Is it in line with the policy to crack down on parallel trade activities? And inspections by FSD, 5 hazard abatement notices and 3 warning letters have been issued by the FSD. We have no objection to more frequent inspections, but I don't think this is the proper excuse, or I don't think this is the proper way to handle such matters. Chairman, I also like to follow up. We don't have parallel trading activities only yesterday. District councils have complained to relevant departments, but in the beginning we were told that it was none of their business, and recently after the inspection by the CE, suddenly all departments said that it is their business, and they rush out to carry out operations withstand. I'm not blaming them for doing this, but I think that it's an illustration that when they don't take action, it's just because they don't have the will. And it's true that such activities have lessened recently, but they have affected the prices and livelihood of people in the North District. So, for the operations Winsand, you have arrested 372 and you've prosecuted 41, and over 90% of them have been repatriated. Over 90% of them. So, why have they been repatriated so easily without prosecution? And people may think that you are just bluffing when you claim that you will take stringent action against them. Given the prosecution record, how can you convince us that we can control or have fewer such activities in the territory? You are targeting at the Shangshui station. As a result, some traders have moved to Fanang, Taiwan, even University Station. So how are you going to deal with this situation? Since MTRCL is here, now you prohibit people from bringing large pieces of luggage into the trains, but they can just break the luggage down into smaller portions and assemble them together again inside the train compartment. And how do you deal with such scenarios? Thank you. We all agree that since such activities are not illegal, what enforcement departments can do is to tackle the nuisance and inconvenience associated with such activities. Of course, if Hong Kong laws are breached, we'll take action to prosecute the offenders. Mr. Wong talked about controlling a source. We agree that the effect would only be limited if we target at the traders only. In fact, we have a three-pronged approach. We take the problem at source, we crack down on the traders and also people who receive such goods. You may think that we don't have any legislation in Hong Kong to tackle the problem at source. In fact, this is not true. For instance, in September, in an industrial building, we seized 200 odd iPhones and a large quantity of wine. We arrested 1 Hong Kong resident and 14 mainlanders. Of course, Chairman, can the Undersecretary tell us why the prosecution figures have been so low, and how do they tackle people who break down the luggage and assemble them again in the train compartment? Yes, dealing the problem at source, we'll use the legislation against abetting and aiding people to breach their conditions of stay, and also employment of unemployable persons, and also evasion of tax.
Of course, we have to gather evidence on every case. Just now we said that we only prosecuted dozens of people, but we repatriated hundreds of people. This is because the court requires a high level of evidence production. Certainly, when we arrest people, we have reasonable suspicion of an illegal act, but it depends on whether evidence is there. We, of course, do our very best to gather evidence on every case, but when we like to tackle the issue at source, we have to work for a long time in order to get the evidence. For example, we have to discover the source of the goods. We might have to track down on bank accounts and documentation, and that takes time. Mr. Chen Kam Lam and then Ms. Emily Lau. Chairman. eradicating parallel trading is impossible. We can only tackle it by way of law enforcement and also by way of nuisance reduction. In September, October, the relevant departments have done a lot, and we see that the situation has improved. And also at MTR stations, the nuisance, obstruction, etc. has become less, and that is quite certain. However, is there still room for improvement? I think the administration and the MTRCL should do more. You have launched this trial scheme, which will run only for 3 months. However, I don't want it to be just a trial scheme. We should continue to review it while it is underway and perfect it so that it can become a long-standing, permanent, time-honored measure. At certain stations where there are big crowds and people carrying goods across the boundary, perhaps in terms of arrangements, order, and location, you can do better so as to reduce nuisance for the other passengers. I think that's something you can do. The MTRCL can do better station management. I hope you will think along that line. Also, the weight limit and the size limit of luggage, can that be further tightened? From 170 cm, can you lower it to 150 or 130? And the weight, can you lower it from 32 kilograms to 20 kilograms, for example? I think you can consider that. We cannot eradicate the problem, but hopefully parallel trading will cause as little nuisance as possible to other passengers. I think there is still a lot of room for maneuvering. Undersecretary, will you take this up with the MTRCL and other departments? Undersecretary, thank you, Chair. Thank you, Mr. Lam. We'd like to emphasize that the present combat action does not have a date for completion. Our aim is to minimize the nuisance caused by parallel trading and also its impact on the livelihood and order in the community. We'd like to reduce that to the minimum, and we are watching the situation. We understand that intelligence gathering means the most. We have already asked the CNED, the immigration and the police, to set up a communication channel in order to do better in terms of intelligence exchange. As for MTRCL, can I defer to Ms. Bonnie Yao to introduce that to you? Thank you, Chair. First, I'd like to thank Mr. Chan for recognizing the efforts of the MTRCL by imposing weight and size limit to the luggage. And we can see smoother operation because passengers have cooperated. And we can see better order now in our stations. I'd like to emphasize that, in fact, the measures do not target a particular passenger group. It's just that we do not want bulky luggage to affect order on the trains and also to affect other passengers. Mr. Chan talked about station management. Let us take Shengshui Station as an example. In the past half year, we have been strengthening station management. Say, after the turnstiles, we have put up large posters to say that if you have bulky luggage, you have to use a particular gate and other passengers can use other gates. We also have staff keeping order. Starting from 2009, we set up the BIU, the bylaws inspection unit. Now we have increased the number of members to 39, and the staff supporting them have been increased from 74 to 92, so passengers can have a safer and more comfortable train riding experiences. Thank you. Ms. Emily Lau. Chairman, I'm responsible for NT East. My constituents are in Fanling, Shanshui, the North District, and of course now the trading activities have gone to Tai Po. There is a lot of nuisance and also there is a lot of inconvenience. Actually, prices have gone up as a result of the great demand. The trains have become very crowded and cleanliness is a problem. We have received so many complaints. The paper itself is quite short, but including 4 bureaus, 6 departments, and the MTRCL. In other words, 11 parties. And there are too many hands involved, and they may spoil the broth. I think the public are rightly disturbed. Well, the Undersecretary is saying that they have got some results, but then the public are still quite angered. Do you understand? There are so many bureaus and departments involved. And even if 2 departments are coordinating something, we don't know who to chase up. And now there are 11 bureaus and departments. Is it that the CS4A would be coordinating things? You told us that you are gathering intelligence. We don't mind what you are doing, but the public are saying that they want to recover Shengshe. You know that? They want peace and quiet. They want prices to be kept at a reasonable level. They do not want such crowdedness, and they do not want to have to be disturbed by such nuisance. They want convenience. Undersecretary, are you confident you can do that? You are just giving us a checklist of what you have done, but the stations are still crowded. People are filing complaints every day. So who is coordinating? Who can show us some results? Maybe chairman. We should conduct a site visit at some of the stations. Undersecretary. Thank you. Thank you for that question by Ms. Emily Lau. Coordination. The CS4A has ordered the Security Bureau to coordinate the law enforcement work. The Transport and Housing Bureau has also been involved in meetings to see what else can be done. The MTRCL has also taken part. You asked for results. Certainly, we need to continue to tackle the nuisance caused by parallel trading. Certain improvements have been seen, but we'd like to minimize such nuisance. The law enforcement agencies can show you in some pictures what they have done. You can see the difference before and after law enforcement actions have been taken. In this first photo, this is before the joint operation at Shanshui, Exit C. This is how crowded it was. There could be 500 people lining up to go in at the same time. This one was taken yesterday at the same exit. This was also a peak. It was from 5 p.m. to 6 p.m. and you can see the difference. Well, of course, you don't want to see any queue. That is our aim as well. I hope members will understand that law enforcement agencies are working at their level best. But we will continue to do more and we will think of creative ways to do our work. As for the passageways, yes, residents are disturbed. Now, this is what it looked like before the joint operation took place. This is how it looked to CNED. There were bulky luggage items and order was not so good. In this picture, this was taken this month, also at peak hours. Again, you can see the difference. Certainly, we want to see smoother operation. We have the same aim and target. But I hope members will understand that it takes time. We said passengers and parallel traders should know that we are combating such activities. We want to sustain a continued effort, and we have done a lot of publicity. How much more time do you need? We hope to be able to tackle all problems as soon as possible, but we must be keeping watch of the situation. And the most important thing is that we are cooperating with Shenzhen, and I think that is the most important thing. Undersecretary, if you have such impressive pictures, you should have told our clerk, and then we can project it so everybody can see it in a bigger scale. Kwok-him and then James To, Chairman. I'd like to declare that I live near the Shangshui station. Therefore, I understand the situation best. It started with Hong Kong residents. They did not break the law. But then that went on only for a short time. They wouldn't make a few trips every day. They would just make like 2 trips in the morning and nothing else in the afternoon. So there was not so much nuisance caused to residents. And they would also keep a low profile, and they were keeping order as well. So all these years, people had nothing to say about them. However, things so developed, and also because of the multi-visit permit, mainlanders became the main players, and they make a lot of trips. They would be queuing up even at 7 p.m., 8 p.m. They want to make the biggest buck, and they also cause nuisance. They shout, and they turn the station and the areas around the station into a market. And in fact, they are infiltrating into housing estates nearby. And now we have to hoard up public areas in the estate, and it is greatly inconvenient for us. Parallel traders are really causing concrete nuisance to residents nearby. And as you know, there are a few entrances and exits to each station, and they will be making use of all entrances and exits, pushing their bulky items, and danger it's often caused. Many old people, you can go there and see for yourself. I think members who are speaking up today, not many of them have seen the situation on the ground. When old people use the area, because of the great flow of passengers, and if these people are pushing the bulky items regardless, old people can be pushed down. I was pushed, and I had my foot hurt. It is a big nuisance. But I know that Hong Kong laws cannot help us eradicate parallel trading. Even if you resort to cracking down on illegal immigration and also the aiding and abetting offense, they can be deterred for a while, but then they are revived very soon. Now they are breaking up their operation, and they are making use of a few stations at the same time. And they are surviving. There is this old Chinese saying, Undersecretary, instead of just lifting the lid of a boiling pot, you should reduce the strength of the fire. In Hong Kong, it's difficult for you to differentiate between parallel traders and IVS travelers. Ms. Emily Lau was saying that prices were exaggerated because of the parallel trading activities. But that's not the case. In fact, they did not have to buy at shops. They come with truckloads of goods. They are not buying from nearby shops. They are here to distribute the goods. But those who are shopping at the shops at the stations, they are the IVS travelers. So you should not crack down on those, because you will affect the business of these shops. They may have to wind up, and also you are killing off jobs for nearby residents. So you have to be careful what you are cracking down on.
So what do I mean by reducing the strength of fuel? I think that is the main authorities. Only the main authorities can stop such activities. Only they can do it. So The Undersecretary talked a lot about joint operations, but I understand that many authorities have a lot of talking but not doing. So they may tell you a lot, but the most important thing is taking enforcement action. If the enforcement authorities are serious in taking action, then there won't be so many rampant parallel activities, trading activities. So if the mainland customs authorities are serious, well, under their law, there is a lot they can do. If they can ban such activities, we won't have such rampant activities. So I hope that the administration will not just take action at this level, rather reflect this problem to the main authorities at a higher level, please ask their customs to take more stringent action. Mr. James Toh, I cannot agree with Mr. Kwok-him more, in particular the latter part of his speech. We can only eradicate the problem by relying on mainland authorities to act and by reflecting this problem to more senior level of mainland authorities. And only about 1/10 of the people arrested have been convicted. I'd like to know whether employers of these 30 mainlanders have been arrested. Thank you. Thank you. I will just answer Mr. James Toh's questions very quickly. Yeah, indeed, we have arrested people who employ these people who are not employable. How many of them? About 5 Hong Kong residents. Have they been convicted? Still under investigation, because it takes time to gather evidence. And I believe Mr. Toh knows that the court has very high standard of proof. All right, then I will go on. Once I had a meeting with columnists and people who are very fair-minded. It's strange that all the columnists present there felt that the recent operations had been rather unfair. Hong Kong is a place where we uphold the rule of law. Perhaps they have also sought legal advice. I think there is a difference between IV travelers and parallel activities traders. First, you have to ensure that you have not targeted the wrong people. And secondly, if they remain silent, well, some colleagues asked why only 30-odd have been convicted. I have reason to believe that some of them had been honest in telling you what they were doing. For those who remained silent or who did not tell you the truth, you did not have enough evidence to prosecute them. That being the case, is it a fair way of law enforcement? Because this is about the rule of law. So among the 30 convicted, was there a case where conviction did not rely on these people's evidence, but rather on independent evidence? I'd like to know whether there were cases where people were convicted after the trial. Well, for overstaying, we rely on the admission by offenders, and we also rely on observations by colleagues, and evidence submitted by other people can also be used. There have been cases where conviction was not due to admission by the accused. Was there a case where the accused pleaded not guilty but was still convicted after the trial? Among the 30-odd prosecution cases, there were few cases where circumstantial evidence was relied on, and upon observation, long-term observation by our colleagues. How many of them among the 30-odd? I'm afraid I don't have the figures with me. 1 or 2 or 20-odd? Well, over 3, over more than a few. So they did not plead guilty, but they were still convicted. Yes, some of them chose to remain silent when we tried to take statement from them. All right, I'm not asking for the names, but I like to know the process. I like to know whether they pleaded guilty or not, and what evidence did you rely on to seek a conviction. Okay, please give us the information after the meeting. Mr. Lam Tai-fei to be followed by Mr. Ximing. I'd like to have this exchange with the Undersecretary. Mr. Lee, in your opening remarks and also in your paper, you stressed time and again that parallel trading is not really illegal. That being the case, why do you have to crack down or come back against such activities? I hope you have the opportunity to explain to you how do you define parallel goods. And I understand that parallel trading can lead to traffic and transport, fire services, environmental hygiene, and safety, and even taxation issues, leading to nuisance and inconvenience to members of the public. Now, if all they do is just nuisance, then and not illegal, then the government should try to find a way to address the nuisance and try to sort out the problem. Now, if it's because you cannot manage these problems, you are going to crack down on not unlawful activities. Why? Because many people have reflected to me that in fact such activities can increase our employment rate and can reduce our expenditure on CSSA and OH allowance, so on and so forth. Many elderly persons can also be employed to engage in the trade. So why can't we be more positive? Why can't we have positive thinking? If it's so negative, then everything will be so negative. All right. According to the administration, such commercial activities are not unlawful. Why can't the administration think of a way to allow them to operate smoothly? For instance, can the trading hours be restricted, not during the peak time in the morning and in the afternoon? They are allowed to carry out the activities at off-peak hours, but not during peak hours during the week, because they are not breaking the law after all. If they can be allowed to carry out such activities at off-peak hours, and they will not generate safety, law and order, hygiene, and so on and so forth problems. Of course, you have to organize the gates of stations. I will not go into such details as controlling the dimensions of their luggage. Now, if you think that this is not really illegal, you can license such activities. All the shops near stations can then engage in these activities legally. And for the elderly people working in this trade, they can be given a license plate, and they also need to contribute to an MPF and even tax. Now, you may say that this is really this is not a good argument. In fact, it's not the case. You can use this positive approach. So I'd like to ask the administration's view. Can you deal with such matters positively? even if you restrict the size and also the weight, well, there are always ways for them to circumvent these rules. And Mr. Kwok-him, delegate to the NPC, has made a good point. It is not illegal for them to do this. All right, Mr. Lee, can you share your views with Mr. Lam Tai-fai in less than 1 minute? Well, if they are not illegal, indeed, we don't have the authority to control them. But we are cracking down on issues and nuisance associated with such activities. All our enforcement actions are backed by legislation. For instance, obstruction of street, obstruction of road. We have issued summonses and fixed penalty tickets with statutory backing. Such activities are not illegal, but they have created nuisance and also breached other pieces of legislation. From an enforcement point of view, we have to take action. That's why positive thinking is important. Yes, we will think of new strategies and measures. Mr. Ximing, I agree that we have seen that the recent operations have borne some fruits, and I think our efforts should be sustained, not only on Hong Kong side, but on the mainland side. As we all know, the mainland might do things differently from ours. I'd like to ask the administration as to how it can ensure that our efforts would be sustained. Christmas and Chinese New Year are around the corner, and there will be a great demand for parallel goods, and pedestrian traffic is also very busy at these stations. So what measures do you have to prevent major problems during the two festivals? Mr. Lee, thank you. I said we have a three-pronged approach in tackling the problem. As some members said, the effect will be limited if we only have unilateral actions, and the mainland authorities are also important. And the mainland, the Guangdong province has set up a command center to crack down on such activities. Well, the most effective way is to control the traders. We have traders both in Hong Kong and on the mainland. We work on our own traders and they work on theirs. Well, I'm talking about the distributors, people who manage warehouses, and on the mainland, there are people who receive the goods. They are part of the supply chain. They have evaded tax, and the dedicated command center have thought of some measures, and we have contacts and meetings with them to see how we can enhance our cooperation. We have the impression that the Guangdong province, the provincial government, is very enthusiastic in cooperating with us. Regarding tackling the problem at source, we want to tackle their illegal acts, and many of them are not just one-time traders. We arrested 5 Hong Kong residents who are suspected of employing unemployable persons to work for them, or who have abetted or aided the people to breach their conditions of stay. We will see whether they have engaged in other smuggling activities. If yes, we will crack down on these activities. You understand that if we only target an individual traders, and if we only target at people who have breached their conditions of stay, may not be effective enough, and is also not the long-term solution to this problem.
The best way is to remove the supply. Intelligence exchange means the most to us because the activities are cross boundary. The CNED has already got an intelligence exchange mechanism set up with their counterpart on the mainland. And we have got a name list drawn up. And the 3 enforcement agencies, the Immigration Department, Police, and the CNED, are making exchanges. As for people who accept the goods, certainly the mainland has to help crack down on those. There was a question on the fact that we should have high-ranking officials making the request to our mainland counterparts. In fact, the CS4A, when she visited the Hong Kong-Macau office of the State Council, raised this issue of parallel trading. And because of that, together with the Guangdong provincial government, we had a few liaison meetings, and apart from exchange of intelligence, we had already also talked about how we could achieve the best effects. And in terms of results, since the mainland has very stringent laws to control this, comparatively, they can take more action. And that is why in my introduction, I talked about 3 points. And in fact, they are researching into new measures. And if there are results, I can give you an account. Mr. Albert Ho, Chairman. Parallel trading and IVS are making huge purchases in Hong Kong. And around the North District, many goods items have been snapped up at pharmacies, and residents have been inconvenienced and they are aggrieved. And the administration agrees that parallel trading is not a crime in Hong Kong. This is clear. Many Hong Kong people also shop around the world. Some wealthy people would go elsewhere to buy a Mercedes-Benz car and then import it into Hong Kong. This is what they do. So what we want to target is the nuisance. It is not the crime per se. Unless you can find legal backing for certain acts. I can see that there are actions that cause a lot of nuisance, and the public are hugely unhappy. And that is why you resort to legal means, especially criminal means, in order to combat these activities. But as you said, you were just trying to tackle the nuisance. So I'd like to ask you whether this is proportionate. You are adopting a high profile, you are arresting so many people as if they had broken the law, as if they were serious criminals, and then some people were sent to prison. I am a little disturbed by this. Well, of course, you can say, technically, they have broken the law because they're in Hong Kong, and they should not be engaged in business because they come as visitors. Now, if these people come with a visitor's visa, but they do business in Hong Kong, there are so many of them. They come here to try to crack a deal, and in fact, these people can also be arrested. So I'm a little unsettled. I think it is a matter of the volume. Some people may be carrying huge volumes of goods around, but you might not want to tackle them. But now the scale of the matter has grown so much, and since people living around the boundary are so unhappy, you have adopted a high profile to arrest people and send people to prison. I'd like to ask whether your action is proportionate to the situation. I'd like to question it because I'm unsettled. Now, of course, when the North District residents hear this, they may say that the administration is right. And in fact, if you want to go to the source of the problem, would the shopkeepers also have a role to play in this? Because they should not allow so many people to buy up huge quantities of goods, because it's clear that the goods will not be used by that person alone. if they are on a two-way permit coming into Hong Kong, and if the shopkeeper will sell these people large quantities of goods, then the shopkeeper should also be questioned as to whether this shopper has breached the conditions of stay, and in fact the shopkeeper could be held responsible for aiding and abetting the shopper. So if you delve deeper into it, I'd like to question the legitimacy of your action. But of course, coming back, if you can tackle the multi-entry permit, I'm sure you can already dealt with the problem. You can already deal with the problem, so you cannot rely on the mainland. I'd like to ask the Immigration Department whether we have the power to refuse entry. Say you have come in the morning, why are you here again in the afternoon and in the evening? If there is no reasonable explanation, can we debar entry for these people? Can you answer those two questions? Under Secretary, thank you. Thank you for the questions. First, we are very modest in listening to members' views and to see whether there are new ideas. Our aim is also to reduce the law and order situation and the inconvenience caused to residents. If members have any views on this, we are all ears. First, you are asking whether our action is legitimate. Every time we mount an operation, we act with a lot of caution. We depend on intelligence. We then make a strategy, and then we would have watched the situation for a long time. So it is not indiscriminate. It is not that we would arrest anybody we see. As you said, we will not take action if people just here to try to crack a deal. So we only take action when there is reasonable suspicion. And I'd just like to make one more point. If we do believe that people are coming into Hong Kong not to the satisfaction of us, then we can refuse entry. But what we have been analyzing is what we can do in Hong Kong. I hope you will understand that we like to crack down on parallel trading at source and people who accept the goods, so that those people who are just doing their daily shopping will not be affected. In other words, in Hong Kong and also on the mainland, we like to tackle the problem at source. This is our policy. Mr. Yik Chi Ming. Thank you, Chairman. I have received some complaints from the sector that illegal passenger carrying cars are very active at the border. Some are suspected to be helping parallel trading and also smuggling. You have more or less covered this in your paper. My question for you is, how many complaints have you received? And have you detected any parallel trading activities involved, and whether people involved in providing the transportation have been prosecuted? And also, what more can you do to tackle these illegal passenger carrying cars? Would you be intercepting these cars which cross the boundary a few times every day? And also, would you have covered operation, and also would you increase the fines? Can I ask the CNED to answer the question? Yes. When we have the intelligence, especially in this last operation, we increased the checks. And in this operation, we discovered smuggling cases using these cars, and we saw more of that than before, and we will increase intelligence gathering in this aspect. I also have some questions. Indeed, parallel trading has done nuisance to residents in the North District. And also the problem has spread to the entire East Rail. Mr. Gary Chan was asking whether other stations are affected. I'd like to have an answer on that as well. Now, with regard to parallel trading, people are taking goods back to the mainland. And, of course, the CNED of the mainland is also involved. If bulky goods are taken back to the mainland, people may be breaking the law as well. I myself went to the Shenzhen CNED and I had a discussion with the deputy director. And I got to understand that they were tolerating such activities if people do it for the first or second time, but if there is a third time within the same year, there will be heavy penalties handed down. And regarding inconvenience or nuisance done to residents in Hong Kong, it may go on for some time yet, and without affecting the daily living of residents, we should continue to cooperate with the mainland in order to try to solve the problem. My question is, for the MTRCL, have you found that people are disassembling the goods and then reassembling them on trains so that passengers are also affected? And is it that they are making use of stations farther away from the boundary vis-a-vis typo station? Ms. Yao? Thank you, Chairman. First, as Mr. Gary Chan was saying, that, as I said, we will not target any passenger group, but sometimes they take goods into Hong Kong and they disassemble the goods. I like to say that we have seen that at Lo Wu, Shengshui, and we have put up large notices to tell passengers that when they do anything with their luggage, they should not cause nuisance to other passengers, and our staff would advise them if they do this, and if they do not listen to us, they will be prosecuted under the bylaws of MTRCL. This is being done. And you ask whether the activities have spread to other places. We have seen that passengers with large luggage have concentrated in Shengshui, Fanning, Lok Ma Chau, and Lo Wu. But the weight limit of 32 kg applies to the entire East Rail. Our staff are now more alert. If they have any doubt, we would ask passengers to place their goods on handheld scales, and the size limit of 170 cm remain. We have not seen the problem spread on a large scale. What about prosecution figures? If people assemble and disassemble goods on trains, have you prosecuted anybody? We don't have the figure at hand. Okay, can you supply that after the meeting? We have devoted a lot of time on this item. If there are no other questions, we would complete the discussion of this item and we'll go on to the next, and that is post-release supervision of rehabilitated offenders and related testing arrangements for urine sample. We'd like to thank the administration team for coming, but I understand the Secretary will stay for the next item. Under Secretary, can I now give you the time to take us through the paper, please? Can I please wait for the entire team to come in? Oh, certainly. Attending for item 5, we have the Undersecretary for Security, Mr. John Lee, PAS for Security, Ms. Bella Mui, and then from the CSD, Assistant Commissioner, Mr. Tang Ping Ming, and also Superintendent from CSD Rehabilitation, Mr. Chen Chi-kung. Can I now give the floor to the Undersecretary?
Thank you, Chairman. On the 16th of October 2012, at the Security Panel meeting there, some members asked about a trial in relation to two CSD officers on misconduct in public office, and because of the alleged illegal act, they've been concerned about such matters, and I'd like to explain to members our improved testing arrangements for urine sample and also post-release supervision for rehabilitated officers. Well, by means of post-release supervision, we try to help ex-offenders to integrate into society as law-abiding citizens and prevent their relapse. Through regular contacts and close supervision, they have to meet the supervising officer regularly, undertake employment, and so on and so forth. One of the conditions of supervision is that they cannot take drugs again. They must remain drug-free. So during meetings with supervisors, urine samples might be collected. 2 years ago, two CSD officers used fake urine samples to replace the urine samples of the rehabilitated persons concerned, and they've been convicted and jailed for 2 years. And they, during the trial, they claim that they've been under pressure by their supervising officers in doing this, and the court said that, or the judge said they did not believe in such assertions, and it was likely that the action was prompted by laziness. So in 2010 onwards, we have introduced a number of improvement measures to reduce the possibility of human manipulation of urine samples. We have now used a tamper-resistant lid and also a tamper-resistant security label. And secondly, the testing centers and government laboratory, if they notice that the lid or the label has been tampered with, damage, they will inform the CSD at once for follow-up action. And supervising officers are required to record the details concerning the sample container in the register of the use of urine sample container. And the supervisory officers will review the entries in the register from time to time. And supervisory officers will also conduct surprise collection of urine samples of the supervisees on a random basis. And the CSD is thinking of setting up a urine sample collection center, and the urine samples will be collected and processed by other CSD staff, and CCTV will be installed to record and monitor the testing process. In addition, testing might be done at once in order to enhance the standard of our procedures. We've invited the ICAC to carry out a full review of the above procedures. May I reiterate that first, the CSD has got no targets for the success rates of DATC. And there will also be zero tolerance as far as such action is concerned. The CSD has brought along the new containers for members' information. If need be, we can explain to members how the new containers are used. Thank you, Undersecretary. Any questions, please? Any questions? This one young man, 5 minutes. Chairman. Let's not discuss the particulars of the case because it is pending appeal. We'll just talk about the remedial measures. So according to the paper by the Security Bureau, I must say that the proposals are regrettable. So 2 CS officers have been convicted, and members of the public do believe that misconduct does exist in the CSD. So according to the paper here, I think that they are just evading the issue. Important information is missing. First, post-release supervision. In particular, when did the ATC or when did urine collection start? There is no mention in this paper. And why have we only got statistics starting from the year 2009? Well, the misconduct of the 2 CSD officers was exposed in 2009. Then for the success rate, it dropped from 64.7% in 2009 to 47.7% to 42.2% in 2010-2011 respectively. Now, if we compare the figures before 2009, then even we are not the magistrate, I think we can come to a conclusion why there were misconduct on the part of CSD officers. So we don't have any figures on the number of recall orders issued. If we just look at the statistics from 2009 onwards, we can tell that this is just the tip of the iceberg. Perhaps such problems are quite prevalent within the rehabilitation unit. Although the judge indicated in the judgment that he did not believe the management of CSD had given the instruction as alleged by the 2 defendants, and is of the view that such might be happening in other units. And according to the defendants, he was doing this starting from 1995 when he was first posted to the rehabilitation division. So I'd like to ask why CN officials had not found out a problem and rectified it earlier. Was it because he had decided to turn a blind eye to it? And if before I'm sure all senior officials have been frontline officers before they were promoted, so they should have some knowledge of such things. I hope that when the appeal cases are over, the Undersecretary can give an account to this panel once again, because the 2 cases are still pending appeal, and we have many queries which we hope the CSD can answer. Para 11 of the paper mentions improvement measures for collection of urine samples. We do welcome them. We believe they would be effective. However, misconduct can happen, and therefore we support the setting up of a urine sample collection center. That is to ask staff not from the rehabilitation division to collect and process the samples to minimize the possible conflict of interest. I know that the Corruption Prevention Department of the ICAC has also carried out a review of the above procedures, and will also give briefings to the CSD. We welcome this, but we hope that when the appeals are finished, the CSD officers can come to explain to us once again, or to give us a paper on the implementation of the improvement measures. Mr. Lee. Thank you, Chairman. Thank you, Mr. Wong, for your questions. Mr. Wong asked when we started the urine sampling procedures. According to our record, it started in 1969. Mr. Wong mentioned the misconduct by the 2 CSD officers. Indeed, that was a serious matter, but was it very prevalent. When the ICAC investigated the case, it invested the whole team, and there was only one case of prosecution. And the court or the judge in his judgment said that he did not believe that it was very prevalent within the department. What about information? The case is pending appeal. All right. Mr. Yu to be followed by Ms. Emily Lau. Mr. Yu Wing. Although the Security Bureau and the CSD have not set targets for the success rates of DATCs, but we see the success rates dropping from 2009 all the way to 2011. We'd like to have an analysis of the reasons for this decline, and please tell us your improvement measures. And if a rehabilitated person is subject to temptation after release, I don't know whether the CSD will invite the police to investigate so that the problem or so that the matter will not get worse. Under Secretary, success rates, of course, I would like to see a continuous increase in the success rate, but the rate depends on a number of factors, such as his personal and social factor, his criminal conviction, the number of conviction, support from his family, and if he's employed, his treatment, the treatment he receives at work, and the work conditions, so on and so forth. These are all important factors. The Rehabilitation Division would like to maintain this trust with the rehabilitated persons, and that takes time, and the success rate would be affected by external factors. The division would like to improve the situation. If a rehabilitated person is found to have problems, there will be discussions between the division and the persons. In fact, once the condition is breached, a recall order can be issued. But unless the person has engaged in criminal activities, there is little the police can do. And if the interview between the CSD officer and a rehabilitated person involves intelligence of criminal activities involving a third party, then the CSD can request help from the police. But our priority is if the rehabilitated persons are willing to listen to the advice and guidance of the CSD officer, well, this is a way for the two parties to build up trust. If the CSD officer thinks that third-party advice is necessary, then they can certainly do so. For instance, they have got training programs to help them understand the psychology of rehabilitated persons better, and also what social support services are available. All these will help in the process of communication. They will try to seek help to enhance the success rate. Mr. Yu, I'd like to know whether there have been cases where the police were asked to investigate because of the involvement of a third party, or temptation from a third party. As the Secretary said, if there is any criminal element, we will ask the law enforcement agencies to follow up. But if just about picking up the habit again, we will try to offer them counseling. If that doesn't work, then the person will be asked to return to a DATC for treatment and counseling. Well, it depends on how a third party is tempting the rehabilitated person. If the behavior involves criminal matters, we'll ask other law enforcement agencies to assist.
But the important thing about our supervision is that they should follow the 13 orders. In other words, not to take drugs again and also not to break the law again. Therefore, CSD officers have the legal power to tackle such issues. Ms. Emily Lau, thank you. The panel is very concerned about rehabilitation, and this has been discussed on many occasions. First, I like the department to do something. Now you say nobody has exerted pressure. We hope that's true. But you must also try to see whether guidelines can be strengthened so that your management would not be saying anything that can be misunderstood to mean that other people are told to do anything that is illegal or against any guidelines. But if you look at the success rate, well, you say you don't have a particular indicator, but then it is on the decrease. I've said in the past that whether it be drug takers or other offenders, you really have to help them. As the Undersecretary said, there are the factors affecting them. 1, they must have a roof over their head. Secondly, they must have a job. And 3, they must have family to support them. I don't know whether you have figures. Do you have similar tables as in para 7 telling us about these factors? Because those factors may affect recidivism. Have you done some research into whether there has been insufficient support? My own ward office has done cases where people do not have accommodation after they are freed from prison, and therefore they go back to the bad elements for support. So first of all, accommodation, 2, job, 3, family. These are the basic support they need. Have you looked at these aspects to see whether they have such support? If not, how can you help them? Undersecretary. Thank you, Chairman. Thank you for the question. We would analyze the reasons for failure, but we have not done any consolidated research. When we do our analysis, we have found that there are multiple factors leading to failure. As I said, there is a whole series of factors, and very often not one single factor would contribute to failure of cases. We would look at the psychological aspect and also the support aspect, etc. You asked whether these people have support. In fact, they do. We cooperate with the Society for the Rehabilitation of Ex-Offenders, which provides hostels. If ex-offenders would not like to rent the hostel, they can also rent short-term accommodation. If they also want to apply for social welfare, the Society for the Rehabilitation of Ex-Offenders would help them. We have the same thinking as Ms. Emily Lau. We'd like to give them support in terms of job and accommodation. And we think 2 things are important for rehabilitation. First, to add an element of education so they are equipped with qualifications and knowledge so they can land a job. Secondly, training. The society I mentioned is one such organization, and there are others. We also have a scheme working with employers, especially employers of public organizations, which would be active in engaging these ex-offenders. Also, there are people in business who proactively recruit ex-offenders even before they leave prison. And over previous years, the CSD has done a lot, including fundraising, helping ex-offenders pursue academic study and also arranging people to meet offenders in prison in order to tell them what job aspect they can expect. Well, I agree. We can always do more. And I think the CSD is going in the same direction. Sorry, my time is almost up. I hope the Undersecretary can supply papers on rehabilitation in the future and devote 1 or 2 paragraphs or tables to let us know whether offenders would receive that kind of support you talk about upon release. I'm sure you have the information. Please mention them in future papers. Yes, I will. I have a question for the CSD. Now you have surprise checks after you have used the new cups. I'd like to know whether you have the latest figures of these surprise checks, Assistant Director or Commissioner. It is a kind of supervision measure. The supervisory officers would conduct surprise cases to see whether urine samples have been gathered and whether supervisees have been interviewed. We do have a random check figure, but it may be sensitive. I can let you know the figures after the meeting. What about the results? We have a percentage, but it can be adjusted according to circumstances. I can also mention another point about Ms. Emily Lau's paper. Question. Actually, in March this year, we provided a paper on rehabilitation, and if we have further information in the future, we will submit it to the panel on security. Well, yes, please. I think I have read similar information before. Right, that's all for item 5. Item 6, staffing proposals. I'd like to thank the 3 officials for coming. Item 6. Undersecretary, are you going to remain? Yes, sir. Item 6, staffing proposals. There are 2 proposals before the panel today. One, creation of a supernumerary Assistant Director Commission Against Corruption post in the Independent Commission Against Corruption. The second one, proposal for a 2-year extension of a supernumerary Administrative Officer Staff Grade C post in the Narcotics Division of the Security Bureau. Attending for this item, we have Mrs. Erica Hui, Commissioner for Narcotics. PAS for Security, Ms. Mandy Wong. From the ICAC, Deputy Commissioner and Head of Operations, Mr. Ryan Wong. Assistant Director Operations Department, Mr. Ricky Yao. And also Ms. Sally Kwan, Chief Staff Officer, Management and Administration. Here, I'd like to explain to members that originally, Mr. Simon Pei, Commissioner for the ICAC, would very much like to come, but he has explained that he has a very important meeting to attend, and that is why he cannot come, and Mr. Ryan Wong is attending on his behalf. So this is what he told us. Okay. On these 2 supernumerary posts and their creation, I will ask the ICAC to introduce the paper. Then, after dealing with the post for the ICAC, we will turn to the Security Bureau. Mr. Wong. Thank you, Chairman. We are at the meeting today with the aim of telling members and consulting members on the creation of a supernumerary assistant director post at the ICAC. This post is to lead a special task force to follow up on highly sensitive investigation undertaken by the ICAC now. We have the urgency for this post because the relevant investigation is complex and it involves a wide range of matters, and the persons involved are a former chief secretary for administration and some key personnel of listed companies. Because of work exigencies, the administration in June this year, or the ICAC in June this year, after consulting the CSB, has already created a short-term supernumerary assistant director post in order to tackle the relevant investigation. According to administration's rules, without the agreement of the LegCo, the creation of a supernumerary assistant director post can only be for the duration of 6 months. That is why we are applying to LegCo, and that is upon expiry of this post in December this year, we can still have this post until June 2015. As at October 1st this year, the Operations Department of the ICAC is tackling 2,258 cases, or a 9% increase compared to the same period last year. All investigation groups are already heavily burdened. That is why it is impossible for us to distribute or assign the investigation work, as I mentioned, to any group. The ICAC has to set up a special task force to handle that investigation. The ICAC has already set up that task force by deploying resources internally. Now we are applying to LegCo for the creation of a supernumerary assistant director post, and he will continue to lead the task force. In paper 4, paras 11 to 13 of the paper, we have mentioned the work of the 4 ADs in the operations department. Their workload is already heavy. To ask them to also supervise the special duty group will be not feasible, and it is bound to affect the efficiency and quality of the work of the department. The assistant director post that we are applying for is given an introduction in para 7 of the paper. Apart from directing the special duty group, the AD should also provide professional support for the prosecuting counsel, and together with the Director of Public Prosecutions and also local and overseas counsel, there should be meetings held, and he has also to liaise with overseas enforcement agencies, and also he has to make inquiries with local and also overseas official or quasi-official organizations. And that is why we have to have an experienced and senior officer at directorate level. According to the present progress of investigation and also the pre-trial work, we believe we need the post until June 2015. This is my brief introduction to the paper, and I will be happy to take questions from members and provide explanation. I urge members to support the creation of this post at the ICAC. Thank you, Mr. Ryan Wong, Deputy Commissioner. I'd like to remind members that the AJLS panel, in fact, has also considered the creation of a 5-year supernumerary post at the DOJ with regard to the same case. That is for your information. Mr. Wong Yok-man, Mr. Chung Kwok-him, and Mr. Ma Fong-kwok. Any more members? Because I like to know how we can control time. What do you think? Should we discuss the posts separately, or should I also ask the Narcotics Division to do an introduction? Okay, if you want to have a joint discussion, then I'll ask the ND to also introduce the paper. Then we can have a joint discussion. Under Secretary. Thank you, Chairman. I will be very brief in introducing the proposal for 2-year extension of a supernumerary AOSGC post. Under the C4N, there are 2 PAS. They are PAS 1 and 2 to help with the work of the C4N. This time around, we are talking about PAS 2. In February 2010, it was created as a supernumerary post for 3 years. It will expire in February next year. We are proposing to extend it by 2 years until February 2015, so that on the basis of the 3-year anti-narcotics work, the PAS can continue to support the C4N in the next 2 years.
Well, his work involves a number of areas, but I will just highlight 3 important areas. First, we hope that he can help to us to do a lot in improving the breadth and depth of drug addiction treatment. Psychotropic drugs are now more popular, and they can pose serious health hazards. Some of the damage might be irrecoverable. In order to step up our work in this area, we must integrate and collaborate different MOOCs and different providers. For instance, to enhance the liaison and cooperation of community-based service and institutional services, and to offer assistance when necessary. And for drug treatment centers that have yet to be licensed, will help them to improve their facilities so that they can be licensed. In the past 5 years, we have assisted 5 centers to be licensed, and we're helping another 18 to help them to find places to be re-accommodated or relocated, or to make improvement on site. Although we have difficulties in securing support and carrying out the works, we hope that in the coming year we can help at least 4 centers to get this license, and we hope that PASN2 can, within 2 years, assist the remaining treatment centers to address their license application issues. And third, for community-based drug testing work, we would like to carry out consultation because drug addiction is very much a hidden problem. We would like to find out the hidden drug addicts and to offer them rehabilitation services, because human rights, civic rights, and various issues are involved. Views can be very diverse. The Narcotics Division is carrying out in-depth discussion with different sectors. We hope that by next year, we can carry out a public consultation by providing some schemes from the public to discuss. And we have considered whether PASN1 can absorb the work. In fact, PASN1 has a very heavy workload, because it's responsible for a number of new measures. In particular, I'd like to highlight this particular thing. In order to fulfill the requirements of FATF recommendations, we have to do a lot of work. For instance, cross-boundary transshipment and also cash and so forth. In 2015, FATF will come to Hong Kong to assess our situation again. So, PASN1 has a very heavy workload in the coming couple of years, because he has so much cut out for him. We will have to transfer the Healthy School program with a drug testing component to PASN2. So, we'd like to extend the post PASN2 for 3 years, so they can assess the commissioner to step up our drug treatment work, to assist treatment centers to be licensed, and also to carry out this community-based drug testing scheme. I appeal to members to support us. Thank you. 4 members have put up their hands. How many more do we have? We're supposed to end by 4:30, but I can exercise my power to extend the meeting for another 15 minutes. Okay? Ms. Wong Yuk-man, Zhang Gong-pan, Ma Kwok, Ma Fong Kwok, Emily Lau, Gary Chen, 3 minutes each, okay? I hope our questions will be more succinct, and so should the answers. And I may ask members to ask all questions first before I invite the administration to respond. Mr. Michael Tian or Mr. Wong Yuk-man. The 30th of October at AGLS panel, I spoke on the creation of a post of Principal Government Counsel. I was questioned and I questioned the proposal, and I said that the government was treating us as a rubber stamp, and I said the $50 million would have to be spent without taking into account the cost of breathing out. Now, you have ICAC proposal, so another supernumerary post, and then you go to ESC and FC for money, and you have to extend a contract on a monthly basis with the incumbent officer. And then para 10, so you will have to create one SACO, 2 CACO, ACOCO, 4 ACOCO. Why aren't they supernumerary posts, and why is this ADSD time limited? And there's also one time limited PS1 post. You have the total cost here will be 3 times that of the money for the DOJ. So if you add up the figures, this is really very worrying. And we're told that the post will have will be there for 5 years, and then for this there is no time limit at all. But we are talking about public money, and we have to be very cautious. We, of course, if need be, we have to spend the money, but there is no way we can reject the proposal. We are only going through the motions here. I'm sure the administration can get the funding it wants. So we are just putting up a show, asking questions here. So you want to crack down on the big tigers, but the expenditure can be astronomical because there can be an appeal, and the cost will be very high. Of course, some people in Hong Kong may think that it is worthwhile because this is a corruption case of the century. But let me tell you very cautiously, prudently, that you should spend money prudently. Mr. Chung Kwok-pan, thank you. At the AGLS panel meeting, well, we discussed the D2 post of the DOJ for 5 years to investigate this case, and this supernumerary post will only last for 30 months. I'd like to know whether after or upon the expiry of 30 months, the case will be passed on to the DOJ to follow up. Mr. Wong, thank you. We propose to have a 30-month supernumerary post. This is based on our assessment. The operations department, we have considered the involvement and participation of the operations department in this case, in fixing it at 30 months. Of course, no one can tell how the case would evolve. If it is found that the post is no longer necessary, we will cancel the post at once. And if come June 2015, there is an actual need for the post to be extended, we will consider applying to the council again. Mr. Ma Fung Kwok. Chairman, I don't know the procedures well. If the administration wants to investigate a case, it doesn't want to suffer any delay because of lack of resources. This prosecution will uphold justice, and I don't mind spending the money so long as we can establish the need. A few months ago, in July 23rd or 13th, you already charged the relevant persons, and my understanding was that you had enough evidence to substantiate your prosecution. I don't know whether my understanding is correct. However, in para 7, you say that there are a lot of twists and turns in the case, and with the impression that a lot still has to be uncovered, and as a result, you have to extend the post by 30 months. Mr. Wong. Thank you, Chairman. Thank you, Mr. Ma, for your question. Indeed, the case is sub judice, but the relevant investigation is in progress, still in progress. Para 7 tells us that we are working on the case on various fronts. We have to carry out preparation before the trial, and we believe that it would take some time for the case to go from the magistrate court to the high court, and we need further investigation to increase the strength of our evidence where there is such a possibility. So the trial is deferred to the end of January next year, and my understanding is that you're almost prepared. You've completed preparation. So is it necessary for you to have a 30-month post? Well, another hearing for the 30 in July next year. The trial may not take place there. It depends on whether the case would be heard in the High Court or not. And there are legal procedures we have to follow before the trial. Mr. James Toh, at the last AJLS panel meeting, when we discussed the proposal of DOJ, a member of the administration said that case ESCC 2530/2012 may be compared to Karyan's case. Of course, I was just a kid when the case took place, but I have asked many senior people who dealt with the case. Now, if we look at the press release in enclosure 1, in fact, I share these feelings of Mr. Ma. I think it would be a rather exaggerated. It is an exaggeration to say that this case can be compared to the Karyan case, unless you're saying that you still have more than 100 prosecutions or investigations. There is no way I can tell. But from what we've heard from Mr. Wong, now, if Mr. Wong can confirm that this case is as complicated as the Korean case, with as many investigations and documents to investigate, then we will be able to tell whether this is the truth in the future. So I hope that the administration will be very prudent, cautious in telling us whether this case is just as complicated. Of course, my bottom line is the DOJ and the ICAC would need all the resources in need to the tune of up to $100 million, because this is very important to boost the confidence in our anti-corruption work.
But is this case really going to be that complicated? Mr. Wong, can you further explain? Mr. Wong. The nature of each case is unique. It is not easy to compare the various aspects of cases. With regard to this case under investigation, is really very complicated. And it is different from the Kwok-him case in that it involves a lot of people and people of very high ranking. We are talking about a former chief secretary for administration. The Kwok-him case is about business fraud with corruption involved. And I can tell members, yes, this case is going to be very complicated. Ms. Elizabeth Kwok. Chairman, I'd like to talk about the ND post. The paper says in para 8 that you'd like to research into new measures to help ex-offenders. Now, you have said that young drug abusers can be very hidden. At Kwok-him Hospital, I have helped with 80 cases involving young drug abusers. I have seen that within a very short while, a young person just had 3 times taking ketamine and his brain had already been damaged irreversibly. Now, with more anti-narcotics publicity, there are many more hidden dens. Some people do it at home and the situation may be more serious. You are looking for ways to do early identification, but from paras 9 to 27 on the main duties of the PASN2, I cannot see the objectives on this front. Can I please be told what you are going to do in this aspect? Commissioner for Narcotics. Thank you for the question. Talking about the main duties of this post, there are a few individual projects with regard to exploring further options for facilitating early identification. We have particularly looked at the community drug testing scheme. We have conducted consultation, and over the past period, we have held discussions with different groups because the subject can be sensitive. And indeed, in the community and also within the sector, many people would like us to adopt this as an option for early identification of young drug abusers. But at the same time, there are many opposing views. Talking about our anti-narcotics work, we cannot just wait for the community-based drug testing scheme to be kick-started. In our overall strategy, we have always talked about this 5-pronged approach, and that is apart from kicking the habit, legislation and law enforcement are also important, and also publicity and prevention are very important. Overall speaking, this is what we do on a daily basis. In the past few months, we have started to try out a scheme, and that is we are publicizing for people to ask for help proactively. We are operating the hotline 186 and will continue to monitor the situation. Ms. Emily Lau and then Mr. Michael Teen. Chairman, I support the creation of the ICAC post. Well, they have a succession gap and we have to look at that later. I hope the ICAC will not be pressurized or feel the pressure. Even if the CS4A has said something, the public have high expectations of you. You must be fair, objective, and also independent in enforcing the law. But about the narcotics division paper, para 26, about drug testing in schools, it is said that it was so successful in Taipo that in 2012-13, 53 schools were implemented. However, there are so many schools in Hong Kong, and you have got money only for 2 years. What is your plan? What are you going to do? Is it that you are going to do it at all schools? Is it that you would have to ask for 2-3 more posts from us, and for 4 or 6 more years? Commissioner, the healthy school program with a drug testing component, we emphasize that it is a voluntary scheme. Apart from this scheme or program, we feel that we can do much more for young people. We have increased resources for school social workers to tackle high-risk students and students who have exhibited symptoms of drug taking. And also, we are providing resources for different organizations to work with schools, including organizations doing community-based drug rehabilitation counseling. They can work at schools, they can target students, parents, and teachers. No, my question was about 2 years, because your work has to be sustainable. Well, long-term goal is to further implement the program. We hope that 2 years later, we will take stock of the effectiveness of this school-based program, and then we will again review our manpower situation. If we think that things are at a mature stage, then we'll see whether the work can be subsumed under a certain post. Well, I'm not encouraging you to further extend the post, but next time you come back to give us a report, can you tell us the effectiveness of the program, even if it is voluntary? And what kind of incentives have you given schools, and what resources have been put in? I hope you can do it within these 2 years, and don't come back to make the supernumerary post a permanent one. I'm not encouraging you to create more directorate posts, but I hope your work can be effective. Mr. Michael Teen. Thank you, Chairman. A simple question. When I read such staffing proposals for supernumerary short-term support, what I want to know is, what if we do not approve it? What is the downside? We don't seem to discuss that often. Very often you would tell us things are complicated, it's better to have the posts. In other words, these are posts that are nice to have. But they may be nice to have, but what if you don't have them? Is it that the case would be so tricky, so difficult? I cannot feel that the papers have told us how important this paper is, how important this post is for the case. That was the same thing with the AJLS paper. Is it that since the AJLS paper has been approved, then if you don't complement it with the AD post here, the case will suffer? So my question is very simple. What are your worries if this post is not given? Because we are just here to give comments anyway, Mr. Wong. Thank you, Mr. Teen, for the question. The downside is, in simple terms, that the situation would be very much far from ideal. The paper tells you that there are 4 ADs in the operations department and they have their own portfolio. If this post will not be created, the only thing that we can do is to assign the work of this post to one of the ADs of the investigation branches. But if that AD is to head the special duty group, the case would be affected, and also the operation and efficiency and also quality of the entire operations department will be affected. You say you have a caseload of over 2,200. You seem to be creating the impression that this is an unprecedented workload. Now, if this post is created, does it mean that you are going to create more posts whenever you have complicated cases? Because we don't see a decreasing trend of complicated cases. Is this going to be a precedent? Mr. Wong. My view is that this will not set a precedent. It all depends on the uniqueness and nature and the complexity of a case. We don't have to have an AD to head the investigation of any case. Mr. James To talked about the Carrion case. There was no AD to head it. But this one, because of the special nature of this case, we feel that we need a supernumerary AD post to steer the investigation work. We believe it will be so much better if there is such supervision. As for setting precedents, if you ask us whether we have had something like this ever since the setting of the ICAC, well, yes, in 1986, there was this case of the Hong Kong exchange. You remember the chairman and a few members of the listing committee were investigated. And because of that case, we applied for the to the ICAC, to the LegCo for an AD post. Mr. Paul Chair, I have two questions. Now, is it that you have already got an AD who is a supernumerary post heading the case? If that's the case, then is it for the same person to head the case, or are you going to do open recruitment? And if it is the same person, then even if you are creating the post, are you going to promote somebody from within the department, or how are you going to fill that post? And just now, Mr. Ma Fong Kwok and Mr. James To asked a similar question, and that is whether charges have been laid. Are those holding charges, or is it that you are still investigating and you still expect a heavy workload in terms of investigation? If not, if the peak of your work has already passed, it's just like school closures. The peak has gone through the primary school stage and now it has reached the secondary schools. So is it that the work of the ICAC has already peaked and the work is now more with the DOJ? So do you still have a heavy workload? Mr. Wong, first. The AD who is now heading the case, if the post can be created, will continue to stay in that post, because we need to have continuity. At the same time, the AD work for investigation, which he should be doing, is now undertaken by a principal investigator. Between now and 2015, there will be a promotion exercise for filling the acting post, because we think that by June 2015, when we no longer need the post, the AD will go back to the investigation branch and head that investigation branch as an AD. Secondly, the workload. As the paper mentioned, we have not reached the peak. The relevant investigation work is still going on. We are still making inquiries with overseas enforcement agencies. We are seeking their support, and we may have to gather evidence from overseas. And during investigation, the special duty group is still doing pre-trial work. They have to deal with a lot of documents, and they have to have many meetings with the prosecution team. Can I ask a short follow-up? In other words, you are not going to recruit somebody, a top gun from outside. You are still making use of your incumbent team. You are just deploying people around. So in terms of the manpower contingent, what is the impact? A short reply, please, Mr. Wong. Corruption investigation work cannot be undertaken by anybody from outside the ICAC. You need years of professional experience and training before you can do corruption prevention or investigation work. Now we have to deal with these two papers directly. These papers have to go to the ESC and also the FC. The first one, CB bracket 2138/12 to 13 bracket 05. Members, may I seek your view? Do you support in principle the submission of this paper on the ICAC to the ESC. No particular views? Okay, we give the paper our support in principle. Secondly, paper CB bracket 2138 stroke 12 to 13 bracket 06. This paper invites members' views as to whether we support in principle the submission of this proposal to the ESC for discussion. This has to do with the extension of a staff Gracie post at the Narcotics Division. No questions? Okay. I will submit these papers to the ESC. Last item, AOB. We don't have anything under AOB. Meeting is adjourned here. The next meeting will be held on the 4th of December, a Tuesday at 2:30. Thank you very much for coming. Meeting adjourned.